understand the reality, the truth. Om Namo Narayanaya. Okay, so let us first chant the shlokas. So those of you who can, you can maybe join, you can repeat after me. The two shlokas. Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha.
Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha.
Kena prāṇa pratama preti yuktaha.
Kena prāṇa pratama preti yuktaha.
Keneshitam vācamimam vadanti. Chakshushrotram kavudevo yunakti.
Chakshushrotram kavudevo yunakti.
Second sloka. Shrotrasya shrotram manaso manoyat.
Shrotrasya shrotram manaso manoyat.
Vacho havacham savu prāṇasya prāṇah.
Vacho havacham sau prāṇasya prāṇah.
Chakshushaschakshuratimucya dhīrāः.
Chakshushaschakshuratimucya dhīrāः.
Pretyasman lokādamrita bhavanti.
Pretyasman lokādamrita bhavanti.
Okay, so the first question we have looked at, and the second question also, second answer of the first question, it was mentioned, what is the, where does, what is the source through which the mind gets moves to its object, the sound is, we are able to hear the sound, the prana is able to move. And then the answer was given. The ear of the ear, the mind of the mind, the eyes of the eyes. So this force or this power through which we are able to hear is through the that it answer was not so direct. So it was said the ear of the ear, shrotrasya shrotram. So I had given you all this this mananams to do. So I don't know how many of you have done it. I didn't see too many notes. But let us try to do this together again. So actually, last time the sound didn't come off the bell. So let us see if this time it will come. Can you all hear me now? My voice?
Yes, very lightly, but still can hear. But maybe Swamiji have to later on switch it back after the bell.
Yeah, okay. The sound, is it clear?
Yes.
Yes, good.
Okay, so let us try to do this practice together. Meaning it's a mananam. So I want you all to experientially try to see whether you're able to contemplate on this the shlokas pointers. So the first one is, where does the meeting point of sense objects and mind truly occur? So here we are trying to experientially see when the senses hear something, like I'm going to ring the bell. So you can just try to sense this. So where does the sound meet the mind? Okay, next question, let us see. Next set of questions. Okay, now the next set of questions is, how can I discern the difference between an object being experienced and the subject who is experiencing it? So in this case, when you hear the sound, who is the hearer of that sound, or what is the hearer of that sound? And similarly, when hearing a sound, how can I distinguish between the sound itself and the hearer who is aware of it? Okay, so let us try the once more. Can you see that the hearer is there? When the sound is there, it is there. And when the sound is gone, that one who heard that. Okay, the next one, let us see again. Can you move the slide, Kartika? What do I regard as outside, and is there something I recognize as inside? Like the subject object we were talking about, right? So can you now try to see that sound you hear is outside, and what do you sense is inside? What seems to give you that feeling of inside? Where does this division come about? So can you see that there is an outside and an inside? What makes this division? Next one. Okay, at what moment does what is outside become known as inside? And when that happens, what becomes of the division itself? So the sound enters awareness, and before it becomes a thought, doesn't the outside dissolve into the inside? Can you notice the falling away of the division? So there is one point where this outside inside thing will collapse, and again it will come back. So just see if you can relate to this. Okay, now the same thing we can try with other things also, like when you, whatever you experience, here I'm using the sound. So here I was using the sound. So we can try and experience this with other things also, like, when you see something, you see a object, a pen, we can take this. No. So when you see something, the object, this object is seemingly outside, right? But so our experience of this is inside. But when you really look at that object, there is that point where there is no such division in our knowing. That division that this is outside, inside is not there at one point, but then we realize it is outside again. So some mananam based on this. So that knowingness, where is that knowingness coming from? This is the point that we have to understand. Is that knowingness coming just based on my eyes, ears, or is that knowingness coming from that mind?
It is from the mind.
From the mind.
It's coming from the mind. So the knowingness is coming from that mind. So when his pointer is given here, shrotrasya shrotram, what is that we are trying to know? What is the pointer? Is it talking about that knowingness? Who or what is being pointed as the consciousness? Anybody? Those of you who have heard so far. What do you think is the consciousness and what is the mind?
Consciousness is what observes that getting recognized by the mind. It's the observer of the mind. Does that make?
It is observer of the mind, but in this pointer, it is not like that, right? This pointer is saying it is the ear of the ear, it is the seer of the seen. So in this pointer, that knowingness, is it the mind or is it the consciousness? And many of you said it is the mind.
Swamiji,
Yeah, Nilesh.
I feel that it is the light of consciousness in which the mind is able to know the object. So it is in the content of the mind is that consciousness. So it is not that mind is independently knowing something, but it is the light of awareness in which this that I am knowing is arising. That in the form of a vritti, that mind is creating this vritti of I am knowing in the light of awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good one. In that awareness, so what is the, like says I think Ram Subramanian or somebody was mentioning, right? The one who knows the mind. What is the word we use for that? The one who is the observer of the mind. Is it called when we observe the mind? What which knows the mind?
Sakshi, like witness.
Sakshi, yeah, Sakshi. Sakshi is the word. So, what is the difference now we are doing? We are not talking about the pointer here is not from Sakshi perspective. So, this is a very useful thing. Here, the pointer is not based on Sakshi, it is not based on witness. So, in this example, in this teaching, we are not trying to do drigdrishya viveka. We are not trying to just try to note that witness of the mind, witness of the thoughts. Here, that pointer is from the knower point only, the one who knows. So, generally, there are two perspectives to this knowing. One is the knowing through the mind. Knowing through the mind is what? Like knowing through the mind is I see this pen. So I am knowing, I am the one who is knowing, and the pen is the object that is being known. So this is called as pramātā, prameya. Pramātā means I'm the knower, and the object is the prameya. So there is a relationship, and this relationship is based on what? It is based on the vrittis, the thought activities. I get a thought that this object is I'm being pursued by me as a subject. So there is a duality. I am the subject, this is the object. So this kind of a knowing is happening, and all our worldly relations and transactions are based on this object, subject, and object knowing. Now there is one point when the first thought comes to you. This, even though there is no label, there is nothing, that seeing is happening. So in that seeing, there is no thought as such. And there is just a light only, as you were saying, there is just that light of consciousness. There is a, you can say, like a pure knowing without subject object. There at that point, you don't even experience inside outside. And that knowing is operating all the time for us. Okay. And this knowing is really called as the jñātā, or the what we call the chaitanya-tattva and all that. So that knowledge that is coming, that jñātā, it is coming in that light of consciousness. So then that question was there, manana question. At what point the object and subject division falls? So if you can experience that one point where, meaning you are already experiencing all the time, but if you can recognize that experiencing of that division of subject object, at that point you recognize consciousness. So at that point it is not the knowing, it is that knower of that knowing kind of feeling. There is only that knowingness, you can say. There is no knower and known as such. So this is that point which the pointer is saying, the teachings are saying, in that hearing, by just that thing, by just the ears you can't hear, that light of consciousness shines, and then there is a experience that comes, and then the mind qualifies that experience and says that, oh, I know this, I see this, I hear this. So this is where that separation happens. The mind kind of tries to divide, separate, qualify, name, label, all that. But that knowing is pure. So in that sense, whether you know a good thing or a bad thing is not going to make change difference to that consciousness. That experience of knowing, that recognition of knowing is not dependent on just seeing good or bad things or hearing good or bad things. So generally in meditation, we try to hear like this bell or good things, because that is an easier way to focus. But the actual knowingness does not require that. That consciousness does not divide this as good and bad, doesn't judge anything like that. Okay, so this is that perspective of that. And again, it is not just my words. You have to try to experience that. You have to try to practice that. Okay, but this is just a pointer, and you go back sometime and do that. So the main difference here, like because many of us are so used to it, we are thinking that it is just observing the mind, like the sakshi. It is not here. Here the pointer is not that. Of course, if you can rest in sakshi, it is always good. There is nothing, bad about it. But the pointer here is in that experience, in that very experience of things in your daily life. You can recognize the Ātma tattva. That is the teaching here. Okay, so let us now come back to our shlokas. So far we have looked at. So let us look at a few more points of that second shloka itself. So it was mentioned, the question was asked. That student had asked that question. Based on that, he said, what is it that makes the mind go to its object? What is it through which the eyes can see? So here he's trying to give something like a vishesha, like he wants a specific thing, like any objects, meaning which is specifically described. Like if I say some person, I tell him, he's tall, he's dark, and so it's like all these are the qualities of that person. So similarly, the student was expecting the teacher will say something like that, something very specific. This person, his name is like that, he's like that, and he's the one who is doing everything. And this is how most kind of religions and all will do, right? Like they will say, there is a God, there is this. But here the teacher didn't answer that. Why? Because that Brahman, or that which we give the name as Brahman, that is nirvishesha, meaning it doesn't have any kriya, guna, sambandha. So these are the ways we can qualify an object. Every object is based on an action that it does. Like if you meet somebody, he says he's a businessman, or he's a manager, or she's a a homemaker or something like that, we say, right? That is based on their activities. Or guna, like as I was saying, he's tall, he's fair. So those are all the gunas. Jati, he belongs to such and such a community, or he's a Indian, he's a American. So those are all the ways to classify. And then sambandha, is a son of so and so, is a so all that are based on how we describe. None of that was actually used here. So it was said that that mind, that mind's mind, meaning that so that pointer was done using something like a where there is no relationship as such, but still it is the essence on which everything else works. So that knowingness, that through which all this is happening, so that was described as in with all these things is nirvishesha. So even the pointer that is used, like saying, the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind, those are just like pointers, but they are not like fixed all the time. It is not always going to be like that. So the idea that is called as the kaka nyaya or kakavat nyaya. So there is a many houses which all are like somewhat white in color. So you want to find out the house of some one person, and you ask somebody, like, you go to some blocks, all the houses look similar, right? So how do you recognize that house? So there is it is used, this nyaya is called as kaka nyaya, meaning there is a crow sitting on one of the houses, and the person who's trying to point to you that house sees that the crow is sitting there, and he says this house on which the crow is sitting. It's called kakavat nyaya. So similarly here, when it is said it is the ear of the ear or the mind of the mind, these pointers are used. So now let us look at a few points from the Bhashya. Shankaracharya has a very in-depth Bhashya on this. So one of the point he makes here is that, as we discussed, we discussed a couple of this last time. When we say it is the ear of the ear, does it mean that this thing is an other ear? It needs another ear. So we discuss this. It is not like that. It means that it is that light on which the ear functions. It is the light of the light. It is the ear of the ear, means it is that the ear works when this consciousness, that consciousness which supports that ear, is there. So it is the chaitanya, it is swam prakasha. And we also discussed another point that the so that was the point there. Now that one more thing is there in that shloka. So let me first project the shloka again, so we can look at the different aspects of that. So here, see. Shrotrasya shrotra manaso manoyat vachoha vacham. It is a speech of the speech. Now comes one more point where it is said sau pranasya prāṇah. So here that there is an objection. So the objection is what? It is said that why is the word prāṇa used? Why is it something mentioned here like the for example, like here it was mentioned vachasya vacha. So the speech of speech, it is still okay. But when we talk about prāṇa, prāṇa is something that supports the whole body, right? The functioning of the whole body is based on prāṇa. So now there is a question here, there is a doubt that if it is said that this is the prāṇa of the prāṇa, then how do we differentiate it? Because prana is that whole essence of that body. It is already a subtle thing. How can something be there which is even more subtler than prana? So the prana itself should be the one who is a. So here he points to this thing where he uses this thing of the one who understands that prāṇa's prāṇa, or the hearing of the ear of the ear. So jñātva pada adhyahara nirupanam prashtaha prashtasyartha jñātu mishtatvat shrotradi lakshanam yatoktam brahma jñātā ityadhyāhriyate. So what he's now mentioning is that point here, that prāṇa also is something that can be known. That experience of knowing even that prāṇa, that consciousness is the essence of prāṇa also. So this is sometimes a big debate. People say energy is a reality. All we experience is the energy. So how can we understand that there is something subtler or deeper than even energy? So this is where, it is mentioned that the energy which we are talking about, that also rises and falls. That energy also rises in us, and the energy also falls, and the going and coming of that energy. That essence of that going and coming of energy. So that is that consciousness. And when you know that, when you understand that, so this is the point. He says jñātva. Jñātva means when you know that knowingness of that. So what does that mean when we say the knowing of the knowingness? So that is that Ātma-tattva. So that knowing of the knower, we can say, although that is not the ideal words, but that knowing of that knowing principle. So when you know that, when you recognize that, then what happens? Then that next part of that shloka is there, right? Where it is said that, what is it? Pratyasmat lokad amrita bhavanti. What happens to that person? He becomes immortal. See the last part. When does he become immortal? When he knows that knowing principle. That hearing, when you hear something and that hearing principle, then what happens? Amrita bhavanti iti palashrutescha. So that is the pala, that is the result, or that is that summation, the realization. When you get this, when what happens? You realize that truth, you realize that awake understanding. So how does this come? Does this come through some practice? Does this come through some special technique? No, he says, jnanadya amritatvam prapyate. So it is through knowledge, by wisdom, that immortality is attained. Meaning it is through this wisdom, this knowing principle. Knowing this knowing principle means what it is knowing. What is the knowing principle here we are talking about? It is that where all is this knowing principle working? Is it knowing in some special way? What is it knowing? Yeah, Murthyji.
Observation without any interfering thought.
That is also correct. But where is that happening? That knowing is happening where? In what areas is the knowing happening?
I mean, there is an object, and there is a sense object, ear.
Yeah.
Correct. Or eye.
Yes. Yes.
So perceiving.
Yeah.
Perceiving that without naming it or without any intervening thought.
Yeah, that's a good way, close way to put it. But more specific way to put it is that first part, what you mentioned is correct. That in the hearing, in that smelling, in that tasting, touching, and all that is happening, right? In that thing, there is a knowing principle, not that knowing of that object, not the knowing of that subject also has such, but that essential knowing principle, which has one point which he said is without any labeling, just that knowing principle, that Atma Tattva. So when you already label it, what happens? There is a knowing and the knower. We call pramātā and a prameya. Prameya means object. Pramātā means knower. Then there is a pramātru also. Sometimes we say pramātru means there is a that knowing one, that one who knows, or that knowingness, you can say. So that knowing principle through which normal functions are happening. So there you recognize, not somewhere in quiet stillness only you have to recognize this. Also there also we can recognize in a different way. In all the activities itself, that essential principle, that when you understand through wisdom, through understanding, then the phala, what is the phala? You will get amritatva, meaning you will become immortal. How do you become immortal? So that the next part of he says. So in order to become immortal, then again you have to go back to the sadhana principle. How does that stabilization happen in that? Shrotrādau vihatma bhavam krutva tadupadihi san tadatmana jayate mriyate samsarate cha ataha shrotradehe shrotradi lakshanam brahma atma iti viditva atimuchya shrotradyatma bhavam parityajya. So now, when you hear that object, when you hear a sound, that sound and the mind's occupation with the sound has to be given up. So this is what he's saying. Atimuchya. Atimuchya means giving up, renouncing, letting go. What are you letting go? You are letting go of the mind's habituation of creating duality. So the mind will create duality because it will label that object. It will get attached to that object. So the mind has to not use that object as its focus. It should be able to renounce that object. So when it's able to renounce that object, then, as he was mentioning, it is able to abide in that observing aspect, that knowing aspect. Otherwise, what happens? It will get interested, or it will get averse to what it is knowing about. See, when the mind hears something, or the mind thinks of something, or the ear hears something, there is an immediate interest or the disinterest. So that quality of that mind has to be renounced. We say raga dvesha sometimes, So how and what is the process for that? So that is where, that renouncing that, meaning letting go of that. So it is not possible to do that. So that is why that word pretya is used here. Pretya asmat loka. The asmat loka means this loka, this world of objects. So we have to turn away from this objects, this preoccupation with objects. But we are not turning away from that knowingness. So that object where the mind is going to, we let go, but that knowingness we don't let go. We use that as almost like a practice to abide in that self. So this is why he's saying that the person who renounces all that, and then Shankaracharya gives many other shlokas from other Upanishads to substantiate this point, a famous one from Kaivalya Upanishad, he quotes, na karmana na prajayadanena tyage neike amritatva manushyuhu. Not through any actions, not through any wealth, or not through any kind of thing, but through letting go, you will get to that sense of immortality. And then, he goes on, yada sarve pramuchyante kama yesya hridhi shritaha atra brahma samashnute. So when a person lets go of obsessive desires towards that objects, then that person is able to abide in that Brahman. And then one more last point he gives, athava atimuchya ityene naiva yeshana tyagasya siddhyatvat asmat lokant pretya asmat sharirada petya mrityu iti arthaha. So he gives that thing that when that person has abided in that knowing principle, then what happens at the point of death? He is able to abide in this. How? By the power of knowledge, by the power of wisdom. Then the body still have its prarabdha karma. He has realized that truth. He has realized that essence. But the body's principle is going on. Then at that point of death, he attains what is called as videha mukti. Videha mukti means there is not even the body that he has to reincarnate in. So until now, he was in that state of Jivan Mukti. So after the death of the body, he becomes Videha Mukti. He doesn't need to come back. He's completely not even identified with even that body at the point of death. So that principle which enables the functioning of the body, the mind, and the senses. When you know that principle has your own being, then what happens? You don't no longer connected with that body, nor will you have to be connected to that subtle body which will reincarnate. So you are completely free. That is the idea that is given in this shlokas. Okay. Okay, so now this establishes for us the main aspect of the pointing. So the one mantra, he has given the essential thing, and now he will just all the rest of the shlokas is going to be expanding on this one only. So now let us look at the next shloka. We will not be able to go fully into it, but we will just look at the one part of that. There's actually some people take shloka 3 and 4 together, but we will just look at the one part of the shloka. Okay, now please all of you repeat after me. The shloka number 3. Na tatra chakshur gacchati.
न
न
तत्र
तत्र
चक्षुर्गच्छति
Na vag gacchati no mano.
न वा गच्छति नो मनो
Na vidmo na vijanimo.
न विद्मो न विजानीमो
Yataitadanusheshyat.
यतैतदनुष्यात्.
Okay, so now he had mentioned that he has used the ears, the eyes, and the speech and the mind. So then we must have some sense of feeling that maybe if I use my eyes and ears in some way, specific way, I should be able to see it or hear it. Like you may also say, right? Oh, Swamiji, anyway, use that bell sound. So somewhere in that bell sound, it is sitting, that consciousness, right? So we may get that kind of feeling also, right? So if I hear properly, then maybe I can. So actually, no. It is not something we can see through any of the what is called as the perceptions. Sense perceptions cannot provide us this. So that is why he says here, that is a na tatra chakshur gacchati. The eyes cannot go there. The eyes cannot see it. Even though if you use a telescope, like see some planets or some stars, we say, if you just people will say, like, oh, that is there. You don't see it. If you use a telescope, you can see it. They will say, but consciousness is not like that. Even if you use your eyes, you cannot see consciousness. You cannot see that Brahma Tattva. So even in many in Indian cosmology, we talk about how people had darshan of Bhagavan and all that. So there, that darshan of Bhagavan we talk about is a saguna Brahma. That is a form-based Bhagavan. It is not this consciousness, that all-pervading, one essential, transcending consciousness. That is the Saguna Brahma. So here, when he says you cannot see, it is not available through pratyakṣa pramāṇa. This word, if you all can remember, it's very good. Pratyakṣa pramāṇa. Pramāṇa means what? Anybody knows what is the What does pramāṇa means?
Measurement.
Measurement. Huh? Yeah, that is actually good. Worldly ways we use measurement. Very good. Huh? So, what does it mean from our Shastra's perspective, pramāṇa?
Witnessing.
Evidence.
Evidence. Trees.
Witnessing.
Witnessing is one close thing. What else? Murtiji, what did you
Proof.
say?
Proof.
Proof is also a good, very good. Yeah. Proof. Arvind said something, is it?
Yeah, I said proof.
Proof. Okay. Okay. So pramāṇa is used as proof. Okay. But in the normal context, we say pramāṇa means a source of knowledge, a means of knowledge, and which you can use as proof. So it is a means of knowledge that you take to be the proof. Like if I say, like I have a yellow pen, you will say, show me that yellow pen. So then I show you. And then what? You see through your ears and say, that is your eyes, is your pramāṇa. Now let us say, if I were to tell you, I have a yellow pen. Then you say, can you hear it? You hear it, I have a yellow pen. So you'll say, where can I hear it? You are saying it, but I cannot take that as a proof, right? So I have to see that pen to say, so the eyes is the means for me to validate that. So for everything, we need the right source of knowledge, right? You cannot see the taste of a fruit. You have to use your tongue to taste that fruit. Then only you can say that fruit tastes like this. So here what is he saying? That means of knowing through eyes, ears, smell, taste and touch. None of that can be used. Then how do we come to this? Na vaggacchati no manaha. You cannot know it through speech. Meaning like somebody tells you, oh, here it is there, that it is there. That speech also directly, of course, we say Shabda Pramāṇa, we will come to that later through the scriptures and Shabda and all that. But here we're talking of the normal speech that is used as in the worldly sense, like the general speaking wise, we cannot convey that. And then what else? No manaha, mind also cannot convey that. So we may say, like sometimes like a lot of things in the world, like how do we know that the sky, the sun is going, the earth is going around and not the sun is going around as our ancestors thought? Because science has now developed that means through analysis, deduction, deduce, all these means. But that which the mind deduces, dissects, analyzes is causing that thing is possible for things which can be separated, which can be deduced to something. Here it is that one essential principle. So the mind is not able directly with its capacity to know it as such. So this is a very perplexing point of the teachings here, because in other Upanishads you will not find like this. But here he is saying the eyes do not go there, the speech or the mind cannot know about it. And then what? How do we come to this thing? And he says, he goes on further to say that na vidmaha, meaning I don't know about it. So then we may wonder, why are we here? If he doesn't know what is consciousness, why are we here? Na vidmaha. Then he goes on to say, na vijanimaha yathaitad anushishyat. I do not know how to teach about it also. So this is very how the shastras are really taught. The shastras is not taught by, like, if for example if somebody were to tell you that I will teach you mathematics, so then we have to look at him and say, okay, do you know mathematics well? Do you have degree or PhD? And he'll say, yeah, I know about it, I know it perfectly well. So then we say, okay, we know about, he can teach us. But here the teacher is saying, I do not know about it. So what do? We should probably close the text and the teachings and go back, right? Because the teacher can no longer teach us. The Shastras cannot no longer point us. So this is how the pointer is given, meaning that normal instruments which we use to know an object. That is why, I wanted you all to again do that experiment. That knowing of that sound has a sound and me as a knower. That kind of a divisive, dualistic knowing, that is not the means for knowing this. So how do we know? Not through speech, not through mind, not through the any kind of a analytical process can it be not. So the next thing, we will look at it in the next thing. He points out that thing. Anya deva tad vidita tato avidita tadi iti shushruma purvesham yenastadhyacha chakshire. That Brahman is different from that which is known, and it is also above the unknown. So how do we know about it? Iti shushruma purvesham, through the tradition of teachers, through the ancient teachers and the Upanishad here, which we call as the Shabda Pramāṇa or the Shastra Pramāṇa or the Agama. That is the means to get this pointer, but not through the eyes, not through the speech by itself. So we use the speech, we use the mind, we use the eyes for getting that paroksha jnana, meaning that pointers and the teachings we are getting, but that actual knowing of that knowing principle, that is not directly by the text. It is our own sense of knowingness. So this is where, the ego takes a hit. Because the ego has this sense that I can figure out everything. I am the one who knows and figures out everything. So here we are saying, nothing that the ego can use, the mind, eyes, senses, or whatever instruments the ego is using, that is not going to lead us to that truth. So this teaching is first trying to point us to that truth. But if we have and all of us, right, are inherently, we have this feeling, I can figure this out. And of course, we come to this teaching through that. But here, the ego has to turn onto itself. The ego has to be turned within to get that point. So that is, we have been discussing that, and we will now we will give more teachings on that. So with this, we will stop here for today's session. But again, some more of that questions we will, which was there in the early part of the last class. All of you try to do a few more of that also. Any questions people have? Anybody or comments? Anything related to what we have discussed so far?
So, Swamiji, in 1.2, in Shloka 1.2,
yes,
when it is stated year of the year, mind of the mind, and life of life.
yeah.
Each one of these things, or each one of these things is pointing to Ātman, pure awareness.
Yes, yes.
Year of the year also, because on the one hand, it looks like year of the year, it refers to the mind. Mind of the mind is Ātman. I mean, that's one way of interpreting it. So that's why the question, actually.
Correct. Yeah, you're taking the Drigdrishya kind of a prakriya. So there the years is pursued, workings of the years is pursued by the mind in that thing. So here it is not referring to that. Here it is referring to that adhisthana, that principle, which functions not in a sequential way. So if you do a sequential way, then the mind is the one which regulates everything. And so then the final point of discernment is between mind and consciousness, according to the Drigdrishya Prakriya. So there it is a sequential. Here it is not the sequential way. Here it is that essential awareness itself. So that ability to hear, we can say, is coming based on the mind. That mind is able to know and qualify that. So that is why that experiment I did with that sound, in that hearing of that sound, when you perceive that sound as an object, then it is the workings of the mind. But in that perceiving itself, essential perceiving, without that mind recognizing it as a sound or an object, that is that awareness, that pure awareness.
What they say as the observer is the observed.
But there again, you see, that is again a little bit of the Drigdrishya, but it is much closer than that. See, when we say that the observer is the observed, that is also the pointer to that sense of division and that essential non-existing of the division. So there it is like trying to say, okay, there is a sense that there's an observer, and then there's a sense that, but both of them are in that one consciousness. That is what that is saying. So you can take like that. That is also a way to take it. But here it is that what it is much more powerful if you really get it. It is a much more powerful way to abide in that beingness. Here you don't even need to step back as a witness. See, in Drigdrishya, we have to step back and see that witnessing. Here you don't need to step back. You just need to recognize that this awareness, that first touch, like the sound, the first sound or the first sight of that, when that comes into it, it is just consciousness only. Then the mind kicks in and says, this is an object, this is that, and all that will happen, So it's more powerful. Sometimes, people talk about that practicing being in the moment, being in the present moment or something. And that's so there it is like similarly, you're always in that knowingness. Okay. All right.
Swamiji?
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
can we also say like we don't usually say that I exist, but we know that I exist. We don't usually say that I
Correct.
exist,
Good. Yeah, that is also a good way to say it. Like
but we know that we are existing.
yes. Yeah.
And then after death also, it's more solid that something existed before when we do the rituals and all. So it's not easy to remember. I think the mind's ability is just, there is a limited capacity. The mind is doing some superimposition. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So the mind, this is what we are saying, why are we not able to recognize it? Like as you correctly mentioned, that sense of existence. You don't need to say I exist, you know you exist, right? So why is it again sometimes, we kind of feel like, okay, what is happening? Am I existing? And all that notions we are getting. So there the mind has this strong pattern. This is what we call samskaras. So that is why if you see this shloka, it is saying Atimuchya dhiraha, the one who is a viveki is able to separate this activity of the mind which tends to judge, label, and which tends to give a commentary on everything. And then that what happens, see, that is why some people in some traditions, that is the only practice they say, just keep practicing, staying away from the judging mind. But here we are using the knowledge, meaning here we are using, when you keep hearing, in that thing there is a consciousness, in that seeing there is that consciousness. So when you keep hearing, that thought will come, that am I seeing all these colors, and or is it really that seeingness is there in me all the time? So this is where, that shift will happen, that when it all starts with that shravana, like what we are doing, right? The thought has been placed in our mind now. So the mind starts to doubt itself, that what I'm labeling as objects and all that is that main essential awareness. I'm trying to label it. So the mind starts reversing back on itself. Okay. All right. We will, of course, this whole, all of this Upanishad is like this, so we will go more into that. Okay, let us say closing Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti.